We're about to rehouse one of my Harpactira pulchripes. I've had several people asking me for updates on these because they are starting to go down a bit on the market. When I first bought these guys, they were hovering around $150, $200 for a sling. I actually got a really good deal on mine. Very long story there. But I bought a female and ended up getting a sling at the same time. This is the sling I originally got at 1 inch. So I think people are starting to take the chance on them more now. When I got mine, there also wasn't a lot of information online about how to keep them. And there's nothing like spending $150 or $200 on an animal that you're not quite sure how to keep it alive. So I get why people are holding off, and they're still pretty expensive, but I have seen slings as low as $50 if you pay attention. They're being bred quite a bit now in the States, so the prices are coming down quite a bit. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and basically do the rehousing. Hopefully it'll go quick, and I'll talk a little bit about their care. And hopefully this goes really easy because I don't feel like chaos this morning. All right. Now I want you to go forward. There you go. I'll go right up the side. No. Try this trick. Probably not going to see it for a second, but whoop, that's exactly what I was hoping wasn't going to happen. Maybe if I get this whole web thing out. Now these guys are very prolific webbers, and the one thing I absolutely love about them, they're gorgeous species. They're always right out in the open. This one, since it hit about 1.5 inches or so, hasn't burrowed at all. They will burrow a bit as slings, but originally what I read about them is that they were a fossorial species, and I have not found that to be the case. Originally I was keeping them more like I would an elm balfouri. Now it's more like I'd keep an OBT. So give them, enough substrate to kind of build a little burrow in, but they're not going to be huge burrowers. As you can see, they're pretty laid back for a baboon species. Of course, apparently she does not want to I'll go ahead and try to get all the webbing out at the same time since I push it in the corner. There we go. There we go. No. Easy, girl. I think it's a girl. When in doubt, dip the whole thing out. There we go. All right. Of course, now she's going to want to go up the edge. Now, as you can see by the temperament, that's technically what you call a baboon species, and they usually have a bad rap for being, I'll turn the light on there, very aggressive, or defensive, excuse me, and flighty. These guys are really, really chill for a baboon species. So care on these guys, very, very simple. Dry substrate. In my earlier videos, I mentioned that I set them up kind of fossorially. So if you really looks up here, I put a lot of substrate in. It basically, as a sling, burrowed down a little bit in the corner, and that was about it. And then after 2 molts or so, it was hanging right up top, webbing all the time. They eat really, really well. Fantastic hunters. They balloon up a lot larger than most baboon species. These are ones I have a hard time sometimes telling if they're in pre-molt because their abdomens get so large that they look like they must be done eating, but they'll continue to eat. The growth rate, probably medium growth rate, but I have a funny feeling these are one of the species that if you kept a little bit warmer would probably grow faster. In the wintertime here, it's been about 72 to 75 in the tarantula room this year. We jacked the heat up in the house actually higher than it's been previous years, so it's been a little bit warmer. And then the summer, it's usually 76 to 80 with the odd day hitting 82 degrees or so. And so at those temps, this one's gone from about, I think it was just over 1 inch to, she's pushing probably what, 3 inches now, 3.5 inches. in a year and a half or so. So they grow pretty quickly. And again, what needs to be mentioned is the temperament is fantastic for these guys. So one of the things I'm going to be looking at is doing kind of beginner old world species, and this would be one I definitely add to the list. It would be number one if it wasn't for the fact that they're just still pretty expensive, considering a lot of old worlds you can get for, you know, $10-15 a sling. These guys, $50-65 is reasonable, what you can reasonably expect to pay. And then a note on the moisture humidity requirements: there are none. Give them a water dish, they're probably going to web it over, very much like an OBT. And they don't seem to, when I added a moist spot in when it was a sling, it did not gravitate to the moist spot. As a matter of fact, it kind of stayed away from it. So as a sling, just maybe miss the webbing every once in a while to make sure it's got a drink, but it's definitely not a species you have to worry about keeping moist. And of course, they're absolutely gorgeous. So for people looking to spend a little extra money on one that, you know, want to get their first baboon species, this would definitely be one that I'd recommend, kind of like the Balfouri, although I would even say the Balfouri are much more skittish than these guys overall. As you can see, I just basically took a paintbrush and got it right into that enclosure. I was poking, prodding. There wasn't a threat pose. It didn't bolt. Very laid back, and they're like this all the time. I've gotten a handful of threat poses from them, and it's usually if I accidentally startle one, and they're not really particularly mean threat poses. Their fangs aren't out. They're not dripping venom. They're just kind of throwing the legs up to say, hey, leave me alone. So awesome species, very easy to keep, incredibly hardy for anybody that's worrying about buying a sling and having it die. They're almost, I mean, slings that you can keep dry, you can't get any better than that. Good growth rate and beautiful spider. So there's the Harpactira pulchripes. I think it's the blue leg baboon. I'll have to double check on that. And just a little update. Hopefully I'll get some of my female who's about to molt after she molts.